David, thank you so much for joining me here again in Berlin.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Your 23rd year of speaking at SuperReturn International. There's more people here than ever, so why are they all here and what are they looking for?
I think everybody thinks the private equity world has bottomed out and it's coming back, despite the fact that some people are worried about the economy. Private equity people think into the future, and I think people think that 2 and 3 and 4 years down the road, this industry is going to be booming again. So a lot of people are here, and there are a lot of prominent people are coming this time, and so I think the industry has done pretty well, and this SuperReturn conference is bigger than anything I've ever seen here before.
Do you think part of the reason for that is people are coming here to look for solutions, answers, partnerships in this sort of environment?
To meet other people. It seems as if this conference has turned out to be the principal private equity conference in the world. 25 years ago, it wasn't obvious this would be the dominant one, but it turned out that Berlin is the principal private equity conference of the year every year now.
Your Bloomberg colleague, Stephanie Flanders, this morning described us as being in a polycrisis. Is that how you see it, and what do you see as the risks and opportunities in an economic environment like this?
Well, there's no doubt that private equity's had its challenges because it's harder to raise money, harder to invest money, harder to get financing, and so forth. But on the whole, the industry's not in bad shape. People have to be realistic about it. Given the fact that most people in the world are really still struggling in some way from post-COVID, and there's some challenges in the economy around the world, private equity, if you were here, you wouldn't think there's a big problem. Private equity people, I think, are in pretty good shape, and returns are reasonably good.
There's been a bit of talk about the fact that rising tide lifts all boats. Are we going to see any kind of revealing situations where those that haven't perhaps been as good as others are going to be revealed?
I think the economy is doing okay, and the deals are going to do okay, but you're going to see that distressed debt will probably turn out to be more attractive because there will be real estate debt problems. There'll be some other buyout debt problems, and therefore the people that buy distressed debt are probably going to have a pretty good opportunity in the next couple years or so.
Any particular sectors or areas that you think are going to prove to be most interesting? Obviously, there's been a lot of talk around AI.
Well, obviously, artificial intelligence is going to be booming, and I think other technology areas like computational biology, data science, CRISPR-related kinds of things, I'd say quantum computing would be another one. These are technology areas that are probably going to be growing quite nicely over the next couple of years, but you're going to see your standard bread and butter, nice companies do buyouts again, and I think the industry is in pretty good shape. I haven't sensed that people are doom and gloom here. In fact, I think people are reasonably happy. Big turnout.
Do you think the portfolio companies themselves have shown themselves to be more resilient as well? They haven't had the same effects as perhaps in 2008.
The portfolio companies or buyout firms have not been marked down as much as public markets would suggest they might be marked down. Now, there's some people that challenge that, but generally I know from my own experience that the marks are pretty accurate, I'd say, and I think the buyout firms have done a pretty good job of buttressing the portfolio companies that they have. So I'm not that worried about the values going down.
Another big area that's being talked about is the shift towards deglobalization, onshoring of so much in relation, I suppose, to the impact of COVID. What do you see happening there?
There's no doubt that post-COVID, many people have tried to change the supply chains, and globalization has been interrupted by both the Ukraine war and I think by the US-China tensions. And that has produced people worrying about whether their supply chains are going to be good in the future and whether they should be as globalized as they once were. I think globalization is here to stay. It may have its ups and downs from time to time, but the globalization that we know today is probably not going to change all that much in the next couple of years.
Are there any particular geographies that are on the up in that environment?
That are on the upside?
Yeah.
Well, I think China obviously has been hurt a bit by the decoupling and the deglobalization to some extent that's occurring, but I think India is one of the big beneficiaries. Other parts of Southeast Asia where people don't want to manufacture things in China, they don't want to be dependent on China. So in let's say Thailand or Indonesia, you're going to see more things produced there. But India is probably the biggest beneficiary.
You've been in this industry as a huge influencer for a long time. Do you see this industry as taking more responsibility for the part they should play on a social level in the world?
Well, the issue is if you rise your head up and say, we want to be more involved in those issues, then when things go bad, you'll get blamed more. So I think people in the industry are trying to do pretty good things with ESG and be responsible citizens, but I don't know that we want to be solving social problems because I think that's just going to give us a bigger target on our back.
I described you as an influencer there, David, and you're interviewing one later today. Tell me about the fact you're interviewing Kim Kardashian here. And
Yes, I've interviewed presidents, Nobel Prize winners, heads of state, and seem to be more people interested in my Kim Kardashian interview than anything else I've done. There's a person who left my firm maybe a year ago. He set up a consumer-oriented private equity fund, and he has Kim Kardashian as his partner. And so they asked me if I would interview her here, and I am going to do that, and probably in a few minutes.
is it helpful when you have celebrity VCs like this, or is it a bit of a hindrance?
We've had some prominent people in my own firm over the years, George Herbert Walker Bush, Jim Baker. And I think it generally helps if you make it clear that they're not making the investment decisions day to day. Kim Kardashian, I don't know if she's going to be involved in the investment process, how she'll be involved somehow, but clearly it draws people to her, and I think it's probably a plus, yeah.
Just finally, summarising, how much do you enjoy being part of this conference every year? You keep coming back.
Well, I keep coming back because I enjoy seeing people I've seen for 20 some years. The interesting thing is when you see people you haven't seen in a couple years, and sometimes I haven't seen people for a few years, you say, wow, they've aged a little bit. And then you realize, wait a second, they're looking at you saying, hey, you've aged a little bit. So, but I enjoy it. I've seen people here I've known for 20 plus years, and it's very good camaraderie, and the people that run this conference do a pretty good job of bringing everybody together.
Well, you don't look any different to me than you did 12 months ago when we spoke, David, so there you go. Perhaps
All right,
you can take some solace from that.
All right, well, I enjoy it, and I think the conference is well run, and I just wish I had been an investor in the Super Return.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's great to have you. Thanks so much for joining us. Good
My
to speak to you
pleasure.
as always.
Thank you.